In a democracy, in community involvement, there is a right place for online involvement, and there's a right place for community face-to-face involvement. And we need to help train civil servants in terms of understanding what tool, what method do I use in what circumstance. But it is definitely, to treat it as an either-or, or to, now there are many, many people who are very excited and have a lot of just belief, and I think in part it's a naive belief, that because the internet is available for two-way interaction and information exchange, that will take care of all we need to do to involve the public. But no, we have to improve, we have to have excellent methods of doing it face-to-face and excellent methods of doing it online. Now, one of the dilemmas also, if I am trying to have public engagement that's going to impact policy, it actually has to be the collective voice of the public after they have deliberated. And many times when we're asking people online, it's a lot of individual voices that then are aggregated. So it's really just like a public opinion poll. So that is a difference that really matters. If I'm an elected official and I'm working on a local budget, I don't just want to hear 10,000 people's individual opinion. I want to know that when those 10,000 people negotiated with each other, discussed with each other, heard their differences, what did they agree were the priorities of the budget? So that's really an important distinction about engagement.
One of the questions also that's being discussed so much right now is how often do you involve the public? And there's people who say that to avoid an involvement fatigue, let's call it that, you should really single out the issues and inform the public and allow them to be empowered as decision makers, empowered to know what they're doing. But then also in Europe, there's this movement of democratic revival that just calls for more referenda, more power to the people at the polls.
Well, again, it's a matter of balance. I think there's many examples, I can think of several countries where the federal government was pushing public consultation. So they did an edict, and we may just watch this happen in the United States online, where virtually every agency is asking the public questions all the time, and it does lead almost immediately to consultation fatigue. So I think you want to be strategic. You want to pick those issues where public input really matters and where we know the public really cares and where there are real consequences to the decision. So it's to be respectful of the public's time and energy and to organize ourselves inside the NGO world and, and inside government so that we're not overtaxing the public in terms of asking for information. I think there have been two trends that make it very difficult in the way government has operated literally for decades or centuries in some countries, where the political process focuses more on ensuring the next election than on the long-term change in the system. So that means that public officials, the people we elect, are not necessarily thinking about how do we change the behavior of the politician. They're more thinking about how do I develop a set of policies that will ensure that I get elected the next time. In the government bureaucracy, many times, and I don't think it's not even so much the fault of the people themselves, it's the systems we put them in to operate, that they become more and more inward looking and have less meaningful connections with people in the community. So in both cases, we have to create structures, in my opinion. This should be our job in the 21st century, is to create structures and mechanisms that keep a more lively, refreshed, authentic connection between elected officials, civil servants, and the general public. Ordinary people living their lives. They're the ones who know what's happening to them, that they got disconnected. And if we don't listen to them to learn how that happened, how can we change it? The Tuscany region in Italy, as far as I know, is the first place in the world that has actually passed a law, a regional law, which requires any land use. You just gave 4 or 5 examples of something that totally changes a community. That any time that is going to happen, which will have both a government role and will have a private development company role, there has to be a prescribed public citizen deliberation process. Now that is very, very forward thinking. Do I believe that governments all over the world will do this quickly? No, but do I believe we'll begin to develop a set of cases, a set of examples, where you actually can show that when in fact a real public, an authentic public engagement process is done in a major land use development situation, you still will have the development, but it will have less negative unintended consequences on the community life surrounding it. So we have to change our culture, we have to change our expectation, we have to change the public demand. But I think that's possible, but wherever where the primary motive for an investment in a community, where it's allowed to stay that the primary motive of the major organizations that are involved is profit only, this will be a major challenge. We have to come to a place where it's not only the community that carries the value of the quality of life in this community, but where the development companies also feel a responsibility for carrying the value of the impact on our quality of life.
And that probably would also mean that whether a government or whether a development company, you would have to change your formats of involvement, because very formal, deliberations that are part of the government proceedings just are too far from the people.
The way I say it at home in the United States is, over the decades, we've just developed very, very bad habits about the kinds of forums, the kinds of meetings that we design to invite the public. We have bad habits about how we invite the public, we have bad habits about what we ask them to do, and we have bad habits about whether or not we listen to them. So we have to just upend all of that. We now have to ask people in a way they know we really care. We have to put careful design into the meeting so that it's actually a productive meeting. We have to inform people, and then we have to take different actions based on what they said.